Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hello to another general update. Friday nights, that's what we did. Sorry we missed last week for those wondering back at home. But we're here now with a very special guest as well. Greg, boy, he's the loud American from the store. So if you've ever been in store and heard his voice, it's impossible to miss. But he's here to chat 40K tonight. So it's really nice. Haven't seen him in a very long time. So welcome to the stream, buddy.
Hi, missed you.
Yeah, it feels a bit like that. 1.5 meters. All right.
Yeah, that's right.
So very quickly, where are we at? We're at this one. We're chatting big things. So previously we were supposed to get an interview with Alex Davey. He's the major game designer for Star Wars Legion, which is pretty cool. Did get delayed a little bit, unfortunately, but that's now back on track. We're hitting it in Wednesday, 10 a.m. So this Wednesday coming, if you're really keen, if you're a Legion fan, awesome. If you're not a Legion fan, well, look, check it out because it's a really cool insight into how major game designers kind of figure out what they're going to do and progress forward. So 10 a.m. Wednesday, really, really cool stuff. Greg, top 20, tell your friends. That's how it is.
Hi.
So yeah, really quick one. Tell your friends. It's going to be really, really cool, really, really exciting. But let's jump on to some really big, cool stuff so far. I was supposed to be recording. That's all good. Well, hello. I'll do that for you another time.
Yep.
Goodbye 8th edition tournament. So I'm going to jump into this one real quick. Our store in Frankston, General Games Frankston, we're running a Goodbye 8th edition, Hello 9th edition, which is kind of what this chat's about, which is really cool. So head on down. It's the end of the month. It's a Sunday. 1250 points, 40K.
That's pretty good.
Hey, we got a follow or a subscribe, which is cool. Hey, that's
you.
pretty cool.
Thank
you. Tournament. 1250 points, $20 entry, all proceeds back into store credit and other cool prizes and stuff like that. 20% off RRP G-Dub. We're already 10% off, so another 10% just for playing, which is pretty cool. Plus some door prizes, plus really cool stuff. So check it out. I've got a video floating around on YouTube, General Games YouTube channel. Please check that out. That's the information. But this is the main reason that Greg's here. We're chatting Indomitus. We're chatting 40K. We're chatting 9th Ed.
Yeah, indeed.
Give me your opinions. First opinions on the box.
Yeah, look, it's beautiful, isn't it? God bless the. We're back to the Crusader Knight style Space Marines, so a lot of people are happy about that.
And no one cares about that. What's the cool stuff? We got the Necrons coming in.
That's right. Yeah, Necrons. They're back to being scary, I guess. So yeah, that should be cool.
Well, you were saying you prefer the kind of otherworldly space Doom more so than the Egyptian kind of flavor.
I like it both. I like it both, but the insane horror and the whole vibe of the old Necrons were I was a big fan of
electricity
that,
and
so,
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you were a collector once upon a time as well.
I was indeed. Yeah, one of my first armies. But anyway.
So really quickly, we will have pre-orders up for this next Saturday. That is when we allowed to officially do it by GW. They have kind of an NDA about that type of stuff, and we will tell you we are 20% plus below RRP with a bunch of different bundles, bunch of different things. We're getting core rules, chapter approved, all the extras that you might not get because you've only got one on box and you're splitting it. We're making sure you're going to be looked after, which is pretty cool.
Right,
So,
the boys here are on top of it, and they know what we need, so they're going to make sure that you're sorted out with a nice bundle. Come have a look at it. I think it'll be awesome.
yeah. Alrighty, but we know that apart from a couple of things here and there, we've got some more information out on the market.
That's right.
Which is pretty cool. So we're checking out all these things. So what do we got here? Tell me.
So we got a few little cheeky leaks here. I think the biggest things that we can do to talk about what is changing from 9th to 8th, and I'll try to get this all right. One of the biggest things, obviously, is what you can see here is the detachments. So back in 8th, obviously, if you played it a lot, you used to know that taking detachments gained you command points.
Yep.
They no longer gain you command points. You actually pay for detachments out of a command point pool that you start with. So
That's the opposite.
That's exactly right. So you can see here, it's not really telling you, but I know that at the top here you'll see Command Patrol, Encourage, and Strike Force. They're point value size games. So basically, Combat Patrol will be a certain amount, Encourage will be a certain amount. I know that Strike Force is the 2,000 point standard game.
Okay.
That means you can have 3 detachments, and I do, if I recall, I believe you start with 12 CP if you start at a 2,000 point game.
Okay.
As you move on,
So my mind very quickly, Strike Force be 2,000, Incursion's probably 1,250, looking at kind of the meted engagement style thing.
that's right. Yeah.
Combat Patrol's probably 500, and Onslaught's what, 4,000?
It'll probably be
points?
2,500, 3,000. I don't think
Yeah.
it goes that high, but APOCing. These are just an example of some of the detachments. Obviously, we're familiar with the battalion is our most important one that we use a lot. If you take one and your warlord is in it, you will get your command points back.
So only for your warlord though. That's cool.
That's right. And then basically the way it works is your first detachment, if your warlord's in it, most of these say that you get your CP back for buying that detachment. So long story short, if you only have one detachment, you get max CP generally. That's basically what it's saying.
It's important to note that we actually have a huge pool of CP. You were saying, was it out of 20 CP at the start or something like that?
On a 2,000 point game, I believe it's 12.
12 CP?
Yeah,
okay.
So I believe you start with 12 points, 12 CP.
That's a lot more than having to kind of work your way up previously, obviously. You got the CP farms in Asher Militarum and stuff like that. So that's
right.
like not really a thing you can do anymore, I guess.
Well, you can. It's still the same. It is minimized. It's still down to 1. But another thing to notice, to talk about is basically you also get an extra CP every turn. You earn 1 free CP every turn
Similar
as well.
to Age of Sigma. Age of Sigma has that kind
That's
of
right.
CP. And then
Yeah, so they took a big T from Age of Sigmar, and that's something they do there.
Next one here. Ooh, terrain.
Yeah,
so we
that's
get some new
right.
terrain stuff here. That's really cool.
Big changes to terrain, basically. All terrain now has a certain amount of basically keywords that it'll have. Each keyword is basically a rule. We'll see that. I think we have a clip of that a little bit on the next one. Let's have a look there. So yeah, you'll see some of these here. For instance, light cover, heavy cover, scalable, inspiring. These are all basically traits that the terrain will get. Once again, that's another thing a little bit reminiscent of AOS. We used to do that.
It's going to be like rolled for at the start of the match or something like that? Or
It won't be rolled for. Basically, you can decide with your opponent what they're going to be, but you'll also see on the next page, I believe it's not this one, but each of these already have their own. Basically, ruins will have a set amount of keywords for these. Yeah. So basically, ruins is already breachable. It's already light cover. It's scalable. It's obscuring.
Yeah, okay.
You'll know that. So it's easy to start with your friends and say, this is ruins, that, and it'll be easy to say. It's already know what the rules are
obscuring and things
be.
like that's pretty cool. And aircraft models within characteristic of 18 inch can be seen normally. Okay, so it actually shows that it's kind of mimicking. If you're looking up at something and it's there, you should be able to see it.
Yeah,
so
obscuring is one of our big new rules. It's a bit of a big deal. Basically, the easiest way to say this without reading the rules is that buildings do not have windows in them unless you are actually in the building. So basically, you can't shoot through a building at some guy that's not in it.
Well, that makes sense. We're not wanted here. We're not like curving bullets throughout, 3 different skyscrapers in a train and through a window. Okay, that's right. I'm here for that. I can respect that.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. So this is the new turn order, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So there's some extra phases. Well, there's one extra phase. There's the command phase, which once again, if we've played AOS, we might be a little familiar with that.
That was the hero phase you'd kind of have at the start, right?
Basically, the hero phase.
Cool.
Yeah. We don't know everything that's going to be done in that phase, but we realize that new rules will probably come out and they'll say, hey, look, this gets done in the command phase or whatever. But there's
looking at the keyword kind of tactical abilities there, so maybe similar to kind of your CPs that you have in the old data cards you used to have, kind of the CP, all the different decisions you could have on that. Maybe there's things that say, at the start of the tactical phase you can re-roll hits or wounds on these particular characters if you choose them.
That's
or
right.
Maybe advanced moves, something like that on some scouts would be really cool.
That's right. Similar to command abilities, I think, in the first game.
Yeah.
I mean, the first game AOS.
Yeah, and then everything else is pretty stock standard here that you can see. There shouldn't be too much changing on that one.
Yep.
Reinforcements, I'm assuming this is kind of like deep striking or deployment and stuff like that?
That's right. So now in 9th, you have basically every army has the ability to basically bring things in from reserves, what used to be what we would call outflanking, basically. So you can spend CP. There is a table you'll see in the rules later. We don't have a clip, but it will be in the rules that says it costs this much CP to put this much of a power level of units into reserves. First turn, they can't come out. Second turn, they can come in 6 inches from board edges, but not in the enemy's deployment zone.
Okay. Yep.
Third turn, they can come in 6 inches from board edges in their deployment zone as well.
Okay, so you're actually focusing on... I'm assuming there's going to be like other deep strike rules potentially, or is this kind of like what we're focusing on for the new stuff?
This is just what everybody can do. If you already have the ability to deep strike like a Terminator or, or like a Scion or anything that can already deep strike or, drop pods or anything like that, they can still do that. But this is something you can do with anything.
Okay.
And a big thing to note, by the way, is that I'm almost positive, you'll have to see when the rules come out, but I believe you can actually outflank from the side of the board within 1 inch of an enemy. So it used to be that you could only be had to be more than 9 away from somebody, but I believe the new outflanking rules basically say you can walk onto the board next to somebody.
That's pretty crazy.
If they get too close to the side.
That means that you can potentially jump on in and be charging or shooting or whatever it is, and it's actually a huge risk. And a lot of the objectives you'll find are probably relatively close to the edge of the board. So if you're within 6s of there,
it depends. Yeah, there's a lot of missions that they are like that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's really cool. I like that. It's definitely a huge risk suddenly.
Sure. Well, with this one, I just wanted to point out about some things about new aircrafts. Basically, long story short is it used to be that planes took up a massive place on the board.
Yeah.
What it will kind of tell you basically is that they basically don't take up space anymore. They take up space, but you can walk through them as if they weren't there.
Of course, because they're flying above you, so why would they be taking up space?
That's exactly right, just defining those rules. Another thing to note is that there is basically a way now, I don't think it says it on here, but basically you can fly off the board again. So basically what used to happen in 7th, if anybody remembers, is that you used to fly off the board and then you'd have to come back in another turn from Deep Strike, basically.
Yeah, okay.
When 8th came out, you just died. So they've brought kind of back another version of being able to come off the board and come back.
Could I go anywhere on the board, or was it kind of near where I was?
You had to come in from, it's been so long, I think you had to come in from a certain board edge, but don't quote me.
Okay, well that makes sense. If you come out on kind of your right board edge, then you kind of, you can't jump to the other side of the board,
That's right?
You're kind of stuck maybe on this half of the board almost.
I think the new rules actually aren't like that. I think the new rules say they can actually deep strike.
Oh,
so we'll have
that's sick. You're just flying up in the air, we're gone.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes, but I think that's what it is. I'll have to have a look. Yeah.
Heroic Interventions, anything crazy on that consolidation?
That's a bit of the same. Yeah, that's a bit of the same there. Yeah. What's next
I'm looking at that one.
Yep. So this is probably the biggest change page.
Big guns never toil.
So all 3 of these things are big things that have massively changed or are brand new. Probably the biggest changes to the edition, in my personal opinion. So basically, what Big Guns Never Tire says is, well, to add on to this, basically, a new thing that also we have is that all heavy weapons no longer carry a penalty to move and shoot. They used to be -1 to hit, unless you're infantry. So vehicles and stuff never worry about it. So it's basically what used to be Power of the Machine Spirit on Imperial vehicles. Used to say you can move and shoot without a penalty. Every vehicle, everything that's not infantry gets that now. So you can move and shoot your tanks. And
that kind of makes sense. Like a tank doesn't get too much about it. I guess if you're moving over bumpy terrain and things, then but really you just move, stop, shoot.
That's right, yeah, and this one's an awesome one. So the Big Guns Never Tire deal basically is if you are in combat with something in your vehicle or a monster, you can shoot it.
Yeah.
So it used to be back in the day, a Grot would run up to your Lemon Russ and he'd just touch it with his pinky, and then you couldn't shoot. You'd have to leave combat to do anything, and he'd just do it again. Yeah, and basically you were done.
So you're forced to hold walls or put a bunch of guys in front of it so they can never actually get to your tank. Yeah.
Basically, it just now says that if you run up to my Lemon Ross Punisher, you're going to get shot 40 times. So that's basically the idea, is that you can basically now get shot with weapons in close combat, which is, I think, a great change. It made no sense that a little tank got held up by something that was no bigger than,
Yeah, if I've got a giant tank with a muzzle like this, and you just kind of unless you shove the Grot into it. That's right. Which is probably something you do with
and all the heavy bolters and all that. We have to shove Grots down all those. But what else do we got here? The blast weapons is really cool. That's a massive change.
I've heard some pretty cool things about this.
Yeah.
They're finally, it's kind of like cleaving damage now. So instead of just kind of shooting, and if I have a 6 damage weapon that's blast, and you've got an army of Hormagaunts or Tormagants kind of running at me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna roll 2s and 2s, Ren type -3 with 6 damage. I'm gonna blow up 1 Gaunt that's charging. Oh.
It's still a bit of that, unfortunately, but they've remedied it half a little bit. So the damage doesn't carry over, which is what happens in Age of Sigmar. It's not the damage carrying over. It's basically the way it works is when we carried over from 7th to 8th, we used to have templates back in the old days when the dinosaurs existed. And they basically gave each of those templates a D6 number. That was basically random. So small templates became D3 shots for weapons.
Oh, okay, cool.
And 6-inch templates became D6 shots for weapons.
Yeah.
So what they've done to change this is that, the way it'll work is if you have more than 6 models, I believe, if you have at least 6 models and you get shot, a weapon that has D6 attacks, that has a blast weapon, will shoot at a unit. If it has at least 6 models, you get minimum 3 shots. So you'll roll the die anyway. You can get higher than that, but you'll get minimum 3. If it's got 11 at least, you get max shots no matter what.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
So they're just trying to fill that gap where you would shoot, 5 blast weapons at something 5d6 or something insane.
Yeah.
And you'd get like 5 hits or something because you got really bad rolling. You rolled 5 ones.
Yeah,
They can't do that anymore, basically, which is I think a very welcome change.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It always feels bad, shooting a bazooka level explosive at someone.
That's right. Yeah, it was awful, and I'm really happy for that change.
Here we go. So Tazzy saying D3 blast weapons still get 3 shots if 6 or more models.
That's right. Yeah. So it's just a solid. It's a solid. I mean, it's a solid number basically. So even if it's D6 or D3. It doesn't matter whether it's D3 or D6. If they have at least 6 or more models, you get at least 3. And on a D3, that's all your shots.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
That's really cool. I like that. It's a good kind of horde remover a little bit because when you got that many models and, yeah, pretty cool.
Big things to look out for is stuff like wyverns and stuff like that. They're guard artillery, sorry, I'm losing it. Basically, they're 4d6 shots, so stuff like that's going to get a massive amount of shots on hordes when, it already did.
Yeah.
But, so stuff like that, multiple blasts are going to be huge against hordes now.
Sick. Well, that seems to be kind of the big ones that you wanted to chat with.
Oh, quick one with Lookout Sir.
Lookout Sir? Oh, here?
There's just a little quick one. Lookout Sir is basically a big change is that...
Yeah, we got another follow. Thanks, guys.
Basically, it just basically says that Lookout Sir basically used to be... if the character wasn't the closest unit, which we used to be used to, you could never shoot it. The way it works now is the character needs to be within 3 inches of a vehicle or a monster, or be within 3 inches of something that has more than 3 models to not be able to get shot. So basically, he can be standing out in the open, but if he's not next to one of these, and there can be a million units in front of him, he can still be shot.
Okay,
so that's a massive change for this game because there were certain lists that take full advantage of characters and heroes and stuff like that, and now it'll be changed drastically, I believe. So very important, that one. Yeah, so big deal, yep.
Well, look, that's kind of all we've got. That was the important stuff that you considered popping out and worth really mentioning.
There's probably some other stuff. Coherency is a big one. The morale phase has changed, but these are the ones that I think were a big deal.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, look, that was an awesome rundown. When it actually gets released, I think we're gonna have to go through maybe a bit of a bigger one. Maybe we can read the whole rulebook from start to finish.
That's right. Yeah, we'll go through the whole thing, and we'll tell you what models to buy and what's not, and what's good and what's bad, so that you start wasting your money.
Well, yeah, because there's a couple extra things. That I've heard the board's getting a bit smaller as well. Maybe points are going up too. So
that's
a lot of things happening, which is really cool.
The board is a little smaller, and yeah, everything's gone up in points. So yeah, bring on the Basilisk. That's right.
So what's the changes to command reroll strat? What's happening here? Do you know that one?
There are new stratagems. Basically, there's a few extra ones. I didn't look at the command reroll strat one, so forgive me. The only other one I can think of at the top of my head is there's a couple cool ones. A big change also was you can no longer hold units in combat. You used to be able to take 3 models and we call it triangling a model. So that you couldn't get shot at, so they couldn't leave. Well, that can't be done really anymore because there's a stratagem that says you can spend 1 CP to walk through enemy models and leave combat. But you take basically what used to be a dangerous terrain test, which you roll a die for every dude in the unit. On a 1 they die, but you still can get out of combat instead of being held there. Like I played orcs, I had 200 models on the board. It was really easy for me to always just
surround
somebody.
guys and stop from moving.
Yeah, but the command reroll that is a rather important one. I'd have to have another look at it, so I don't want to big chat about it without knowing everything about it.
But look, those books will come out soon. We've got some really cool deals and all of this to say at the start, so keep an eye on our Facebook page. generalgames.com.au is our website as well. Check out all of that. Do I have the things up? I can do that one. So come check out our Facebook, which is really cool. Yeah, cool is this stuff, man.
That's pretty
cool. I know it covers our face with a bit of sadness, but Instagram as well. Cool back end behind the scenes, and then of course YouTube as well. If you can like this, would be really appreciated. We'll have this up on YouTube shortly. So just quick shout outs to Calic, Deadly Demon God, and Jeremy C. Smart. Thanks for the follow, guys. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
But you have yourself all a wonderful night, and we're just going to jump off for a little bit here. Follow us for some more Magic content. I'm going to call Scott in, but this has been the special guest, Greg. Thank you very much, buddy.
No worries.
Thank you to everyone else. You guys have a great night. Cheers.